Hi TK Cubs! It is time for our story time where you are going to make the pictures in your head and just listen to the words that I'm reading. And then I'm going to do the picture cards like last week. So this week's story is called The Voice in Rabbit's House. And last week's story was Johnny Cake, remember? And then we went over the story cards afterwards and saw the pictures and answered all the questions and retold the story. So I would like to read you The Voice in Rabbit's House and do the same thing as last week when we read Johnny Cake. All right. One day, while Rabbit was out, Caterpillar crawled inside Rabbit's house. When Rabbit came home, he noticed unfamiliar tracks in the dirt by the door. "Who has entered my house?" Rabbit wondered. He peeked through the window but saw nothing. He was too afraid to go inside. "Hello," Rabbit hollered. "Who is in my house?" A deep, booming voice replied, "It is I, the most powerful and terrible creature in the land. I make rhinoceros tremble and elephant hide in fear." Such a creature would surely eat a little rabbit like me for dinner. What shall I do? Thought Rabbit. He ran to find help. Now, I just remember a caterpillar crawling in there. Would he have that big booming scaring voice? Could he make rhinoceros tremble? I don't know. Let's find out. "Leopard, I need your help!" cried Rabbit. "There's a monster in my house." Leopard was not afraid. He stood by the window and growled, "Who is in Rabbit's house?" "It is I, the most powerful and terrible creature in the land. I make rhinoceros tremble and elephants hide in fear." The caterpillar's voice shook Rabbit's house like an earthquake. "I'm leaving," screamed Leopard. "If this creature frightens rhinoceros and elephants, imagine what he could do to me." And Leopard ran away. "Oh dear," said Rabbit. He was very worried. He went to find Rhinoceros to see if she could help. "Rhinoceros, there is a terrible monster in my house," said Rabbit. Please help me get him out." "There is no monster more terrible than I," proclaimed Rhinoceros. Then she bellowed, "Who is in Rabbit's house?" "It is I, the most powerful and terrible creature in the land," said Caterpillar in his thunderous voice. "I make rhinoceros tremble and elephant hide in fear." The caterpillar's voice was so loud that the ground beneath Rhinoceros's feet trembled. "I am trembling," said Rhinoceros. What the creature says is true, which means he must be terrible indeed." She ran away, leaving Rabbit all alone. "Oh dear," cried Rabbit. He was very frustrated. "Perhaps Elephant can get the monster out of my house." Rabbit found Elephant and begged him to help. Elephant agreed. He pushed his trunk aside inside Rabbit's door and demanded, "Who is in Rabbit's house?" "It is I, the most powerful and terrible creature in the land. I make rhinoceros tremble and elephant hide in fear." The caterpillar's mighty voice made the pebbles roll between Elephant's feet. "Is it true?" Elephant asked Rabbit. "Did Rhinoceros really tremble?" "She did tremble," answered Rabbit, and then she ran away. "Rhinoceros is very fierce. If she trembled in fear of this creature, then I too must go and hide. Goodbye." Elephant ran away and hid. "Oh dear," cried Rabbit. "This is hopeless. I'll never get the monster out of my house. What will I ever do?" Just then, Frog passed by Rabbit's house. She heard Rabbit whirring. "Can I help you with something, Rabbit?" asked Frog. "I doubt it," said Rabbit. "There is a terribly frightful monster in my house. Leopard, rhinoceros, and elephant each tried to help, and all of them ran away in fear. How could a small frog like you make the monster leave?" "Let me try anyway," said Frog. Frog hopped to Rabbit's door and shouted in the biggest voice she could muster. "Who is in Rabbit's house?" "It is I," replied Caterpillar in his giant voice, "the most powerful and terrible creature in the land. I make rhinoceros tremble and elephant hide in fear." Frog hopped inside the house and replied, "I am the strongest, most powerful, and most terrible creature of all. I frighten the creature who causes rhinoceros to tremble and elephant to hide in fear. I insist you leave." When Caterpillar heard this, he started to shake. After all, he was only a small caterpillar, and a creature of such great strength could easily crush him. He decided to leave Rabbit's house at once. He slithered under a wall, trying not to be noticed. But Rabbit spotted Caterpillar. "It was you?" Rabbit shouted. He could not believe that the giant voice in his house had come from such a tiny caterpillar. Rabbit turned to Frog and said, "Thank you so much. You saved me from quite a mighty creature." They looked at the caterpillar and laughed. Then leopard, rhinoceros, and elephant all chuckled at the sight of the tiny caterpillar who had caused them such a fright. I love that story. This just happened to me. Similar. I have a similar story the other day. So I left my door open so my cat can go out in and out so he can enjoy the sunshine. And all of a sudden, he was banging around. He was back in the house, and I'm on the couch, and he's thumping around, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And he ran past me, and he dropped a lizard on my carpet. And then he was just sitting by it. I'm like, oh my gosh, to get this lizard out of my house. So luckily, my boxing coach is my neighbor, thank goodness. So I text him, and thank goodness everyone's home right now. So he came over and took the lizard. And the poor little lizard had a puncture wound, and there was blood on my carpet and everything. And he had a little puncture wound, but he was still alive. I thought he was dead. My cat was sitting there, but I think he was playing possum, like he was pretending he was dead. He was also hurt, but I think he was pretending, because if he doesn't move, then my cat will leave him alone. So then Tony, my friend, my neighbor, came over and took him, thank goodness, and he was still alive, and Tony nursed him back to health, and he's totally fine. So he got the lizard out of my house. Next day, didn't learn my lesson, left the door open again, and this time my cat ran in the house chasing another lizard. And this lizard, that's why this story reminds me, because this lizard left tracks of mud in my house, just like the caterpillar left tracks when the rabbit came home. So there was tracks all over my kitchen floor of mud, and the cat chased the lizard into my kitchen, and I'm like, oh my God. So now I'm like, oh my goodness. So I had to text Tony again, and I'm like, oh my gosh, please come over. And he comes over right away again, which was so kind. And but this time I was worried because I didn't know where the lizard was. So all I could tell Tony was the last time I saw the lizard, and then my cat ran away. And luckily he had stopped, and Tony says they go against the walls, and that's where they hide, just like in the story. The caterpillar did that. So he was against the wall behind my scale in the kitchen. And he moved the kitchen and caught him. And this one was totally fine. This one didn't get hurt. And so he just let him loose in his grass in his yard. So that was my story. So I love this story because it reminded me of what I just went through with the lizard getting into my house. But the cat was the culprit. It was the cat's fault. All right, so let's go back to the voice in Rabbit's house. And the reason why I picked this story was voice starts with the letter, that's right, V. So first story card. So I don't know if your stories that you imagine in your head when you listen to the story are going to be similar, but this is this illustrator's version of the story that we just listened to. So you're going to tell a family member who is the character in the picture. Why is he upset? Whose tracks are in the dirt? And what does Caterpillar say? And by answering these questions, you're actually retelling the story. And I'm sure one of your family members would love to hear the voice in Rabbit's house in your voice. Okay, so you're going to retell the story by answering those questions. Who is the character in the picture? Why is he upset? Whose tracks are in the dirt? And what does Caterpillar say? Then, next picture. So that's when Elephant came to help him, or try to help him. So what is Elephant doing? Why are Leopard and Rhinoceros hiding? What do the animals think is inside the house? And who is really inside the house? So by answering these questions, you're going to be retelling the story. So tell a family member, that same family member, so they can hear the beginning, middle, and the end of the story. So answer these questions, and you will be retelling the story, the middle part of the story. All right, last card. We have this one. Who is everyone looking at? What did Frog say to make Caterpillar come out? Why is Rabbit so surprised? And why are the other animals laughing? So this is, by you answering these questions, you'll be telling the end of the story. So tell that same family member, answer these questions, and you will be telling that same family member the rest of the story. So if you answer all the questions, you will be telling the whole story, retelling the whole story in your own voice. Perfect. All right, thank you, and thanks for listening to my own personal story, and I will see you tomorrow.